A very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Harish from the Singapore Business Federation. Welcome to Growing Role of Digital Forensics and Incident Response, DFIR, in Resilient IR Strategies, webinar jointly organized by Binalize, Athena Dynamics, SG Tech, and Singapore Business Federation. Before we begin with the program, we would like to share some house rules. No recording and sharing of the content outside of this webinar is allowed unless the information is available publicly. Also, the chat function has been disabled. If you encounter any audiovisual issues, please check your connection. If necessary, you may leave and re-enter the webinar. If you have any questions, please submit them via the Q&A panel function on Microsoft Teams. Also, there will be a poll during the webinar, and there are $10 vouchers to be won by 30 respondents. If you're interested to win the voucher, we strongly encourage you to respond to the poll. Please also take note that you will be giving consent to Binalize and Athena Dynamics to reach out to you after the webinar, should you consider to respond to the poll questions. We'll also share your contact details with Binalize and Athena Dynamics after this webinar. To kick off this afternoon's program, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Ken So, Chair of SG Tech, Cybersecurity Chapter, to deliver the welcome address. Good afternoon, Ken. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Harish. On behalf of SG Tech and in the capacity of Chair of Cybersecurity Chapter SG Tech, a very warm welcome to all of you to the webinar. This webinar is part of a series of a focused learning and sharing webinars, and this time, as per Harish mentioned, very much on DFIR, Digital Forensic and Incident Response. Specifically, I'm truly humbled to have two experts today on disruptive innovation in DFIR. Ombre, I think you saw from the EDM, who has been expert in the DFIR in totality, and he has been in the deeper end of the research and the academia in even malware kind of analysis work in the past. And also Andy, who is operating an IR and has been in IR for probably the last 2 decades, right? So I believe DFIR is close to many people's heart, not just MSSP, SOC, or even NOC operators, but a lot of in-house operation. You will find DFIR something that is directly relevant, especially when incidents may happen anytime. When I first came across this innovation, that it is able and having the credential to string weeks of DFIR effort into minutes, I get truly excited. I mean, for someone that I'm looking around for disruptive technologies, this is truly exciting. In my own words, I see the whole thing is being able to do a concentrated and strategic automation of DFIR to achieve this purpose, right? So anyway, prior to the excitement, please give me a little bit of time to introduce SG Tech. SG Tech is a 41-year-old trade association in Singapore. Today, we're quite proud that it has about 1,100 plus enterprise members. The members ranges from MNC, SME, large and small, to even startups. So the TAC, Trade Association of SG Tech, focuses a lot on PPP facilitation, industry consultation, and the key is bridging capability to give feedback even to government on policy setting as well. So with the focus on PPP, there are a lot of activities involved in digital and data nodes, sustainabilities, and tech talents outreach. For example, like last year, we have a large event held in RWS, Global Future, including also tech talent outreach to IHL with attendance of almost 400 people in the webinar. So in a nutshell, SG Tech is a network of networks, whether it is a Singapore or region. So if you are in business, you want to learn, you want to share, please join us. You can always go to the website or contact us for that purpose. So without further ado, let's start this webinar. Yeah, Harish, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken, for the well-rounded welcome address. We shall now dive deeper into this afternoon's program with Binalize founder and CEO, Mr. Emre Tinestepe, to take us through growing role of digital forensics and incident response, DFIR, in resilient IR strategies. Mr. Emre, please.
Thanks a lot, Harish. Thank you, Ken. Hello, everyone. My name is Emre. I'm the founder and CEO of the company. It's a pleasure being here. Greetings from San Francisco. Hopefully, I'll be there. I'll be back in Singapore in around 10 days, and I'll stay there until 20. So I'll be very happy if there's any chance to meet you also in person. Let me share my screen and give you a brief overview of how it started, where we are right now, and why DFIR is getting more and more important every day. Can you see my screen now? Harish, I guess you can see it, right?
Yes, we can see the slides.
Yep.
Perfect.
All right. Very well.
Great. So in today's session, we'll be talking about the resilience side of digital forensics and incident response, because for the last 30, almost 40 years, we've been talking about cybersecurity, which is based around securing an environment. But now our industry is moving towards a resilience-based approach, which is why we'll be covering with the DFIR today. Let me briefly give an overview about myself. I'm coming from the endpoint security industry. I spent 15 years in cyber, have been in software development close to 25 years. And the last 6 years of this process was fully on digital forensics and incident response. I had a chance to work with our advisors in the last 10 years, and the idea of our product came while being involved in high-profile investigations, so feeling the pain ourselves, and the initial product was developed for ourselves. And then we started getting a lot of interest, which made us come here. Binalize is established in 2018, so it's been almost 6 years. And the idea was innovating and disrupting digital forensics and making it fit for purpose for the current landscape, because all the products when we started were based on the methodology that was invented 30, 40 years ago. And this was almost around getting a full disk acquisition that forces you to wait for hours, sometimes days. But it wasn't, unfortunately, fit for purpose because no one has that much time. So that was the initial idea. And we started developing our solutions to make it lightning fast, easy to use, and integrated. So integration was the very first feature that we started after collecting the artifacts, because at that time, and that's still the case, which is increasing ever more, enterprises already have everything money can buy. So all the security solutions. But the problem is we still need to have a human aspect of the incident response and digital forensics. And when it comes to people, you need to collaborate, you need to coordinate, you need to speed up this process. Otherwise, you'll be blocked by the people aspect. So that's why integration with the existing security solutions, plus enabling your team to collaborate remotely and at a scalable manner, was the main idea. So that's our vision. We are an Estonian company, the land of unicorns. Also, Estonia and Singapore are having really tight relationships. I think that's because of our cultures, the way we see stuff. Both countries are highly digitalized. That's what I enjoy when I come to Singapore. And we also have our commercial offices in US, London, and now in Singapore. So DFIR is the next frontier of cybersecurity, which will be covered in the upcoming slides. This screenshot is from a video, what we call in Binalize our Eureka moment. So I watched this video 7 years ago, and that was like Archimedes had that Eureka moment. So when I first watched this video, I just leaned back and then watched it again and again. And I remember at least like maybe close to 10 times watching, because this video made me think, this is what we've been doing for the last 10 years. And you may be asking, what is this video about? So this is about the evolution of bacteria. So this is a petri dish. It's a really big petri dish. And this is an experiment made by Harvard Medical School that took 11 days to complete. What they test here is they put different levels of antibiotics. So imagine this petri dish as your enterprise. And from the outer side to the inner side, there are different levels of antibiotics. Here we have 0 protection. Here we have 1 time stronger antibiotics, 10 times stronger antibiotics, 100 times, and in the middle we have 1,000 times stronger antibiotics, similar to what we have in our enterprises, defense in depth. But the problem is, whatever the level of antibiotics you put, bacteria, even though 99% of it is neutralized, there is still 1% that passes through the second layer. And then here again 99%, maybe even a bit less, is neutralized, but there is 2% penetration. So at the end of this story, at 11 days, the experts discovered that bacteria can survive in an area that is protected by 1,000 times stronger antibiotics. Exact same story in the enterprise. So at this time, we were developing these solutions. We were adding a new layer, they were bypassing it. We were adding another one, they were bypassing it again. Sometimes we were adding a layer before the attackers figured it out, and somehow they were bypassing it again. So it was cat and mouse game. If you take a look at the timeline here, the first computer virus starts 50 years ago. And then this is the time we started, 2017, end of 2017, beginning of 2018. And that was the time EDRs were getting popular. And then in just 2 years time periods, people started to think about, okay, EDR is dead as well, which was the case for AV. If you Google now, you'll see the tombstone of antivirus. So there's a tombstone that says antivirus is dead, which is happening to the EDRs as well now, because XDR is the new paradigm, which allows you to collect from many more assets. And now we are talking about MDRs because there is still a human aspect. So this is the story of the evolution of cybersecurity. So that's why we need a new paradigm, which is based on forensic visibility that allows us to unlock the new use cases that wasn't possible before. So the biggest problem in this industry is dwell time. And this is mostly because of the lack of visibility. So if you take a look at the reports, and the latest one was released by IBM very recently, you'll see that it takes close to the latest report, close to 310 days, as far as I remember. And this is mostly because the lack of visibility and the aspect of the security is based on monitoring. But the problem is, the first thing an attacker does is bypassing these monitoring solutions. So that's why our partners like SecureWorks, they are always in monitoring modes. They use forensic visibility so they can continuously check and assess your environment, decrease the dwell time. So we are not talking about 300 days of dwell time. We are talking about days of dwell time. And this is, I think, the biggest problem. And then we have several other, mainly around the human aspect. We recently had a report published by IDC, and in this report, the investigation time, I'm not talking about the discovery time, the investigation time. So we are talking about now we have an alert, and now we want to investigate that to understand if it's a false positive or if it's a true, like it's a real incident. It takes 26.1 days to investigate. This is a very fresh report that was published a week ago. And then to resolve that incident, you still need to spend more than 17 days. So it's close to a month and a half to complete investigation and then return back to normal, which is a huge amount of time. And this is also observed in the regular circles, like regulatory circles. You can see a lot of similar laws passing all around the world. This one is from European Commission. This one is from the US. Recently, India published a similar, released a similar regulation, which will be in effect, as far as I remember, in a few years. And the same happened in Australia. So this is now becoming a regulation because you need to be fast. Otherwise, you cannot catch up with the attackers. And the more time you lose, the more money you lose, the more reputation you lose. It goes on and on. This is based on a poll we have done very recently. And all of the CISOs were concerned, but 78% of them said the breach risk is high. The rest was like low and medium. And this is due to mainly 4 aspects. The first one is threat and volume velocity and sophistication of the attacks are increasing. There's an exponential increase in the data volume. So every source, every asset has a data that can be abused or that can also be used as an evidence in an investigation. And the attack surface is constantly increasing, especially after COVID. Like basically, you can be breached from anywhere. You're not limited with the enterprise boundaries now. And the regulatory burden is getting a challenge, becoming a challenge as well. And it will be causing us more and more money. So we won't be losing money to the attackers. We'll also be paying like fees to the regulations and laws as well. So these are the main challenges, but the top two are difficulties of acquiring evidence, which is again lack of complete incident visibility, because when you cannot acquire evidence, you cannot see what is in front of you. And combining this with the second topmost, shortage experienced DFIR professionals, the shortage of experienced DFIR professionals, because it's really hard to find people who knows how to do, what to do, which is also like doubling, tripling the problem here. So we don't see what's in front of us. And when we collect them, we don't have the people to understand what went wrong. This like adds up, and that's the reason we see numbers as high as 300 days to identify and contain a breach. So for these reasons, this is actually becoming a new category. So this was published, I guess, 6 months ago, and now just a few months ago, Gartner published their first paper on this topic. So we see it as evolving into a new category because Gartner also published this paper in emerging technologies. And the reason is, if you do not dig deeper on the incident, it becomes harder to understand how it happened, when it happened, which is again completely the first step of the containment. Because if you do not understand where are the bleeding points, then it becomes almost impossible to contain that breach because you don't know how it happened, when it happened. And using these, we are aiming to reduce mean time to contain and mean time to remediate. So without having the visibility, without having the speed, which is forensic visibility, forensic speed, you cannot basically reduce these two parameters, which are the critical items in incident response. So that's why DFIR is becoming a new category, and this was published last year on Hype Cycle for Security Operations, right next to XDR and breach and attack simulation. We were expecting this to happen in the 8-9 years, but it happened much faster, much earlier than we expected. So this was our 5th year, and now digital forensics and incident response is positioned at the peak of the hype cycle. So when you think about DFIR and how it integrates with your security stack, because anything that does not integrate in this era, anything that doesn't integrate with what you already have, is destined to fail. That's how I see it. So that's why integration piece is extremely important. So the reason DFIR sits right at the center of these all security solutions like EDRs, XDRs, CMs, SOARs, because these products we already invested millions of dollars. As an enterprise, we already invested millions of dollars into these products, and these products are doing their job. They're creating an alert. But the problem is we don't have people to respond to these alerts, connect to those assets, collect the evidence, and then put them on a timeline, understand what happened. This is the time-taking piece. When you integrate this, when you put DFIR at the center and integrate these with these solutions so that they work hand in hand, then all these problems are solved. Then we are talking about like weeks of incident investigation and resolution time. So the key takeaway from this section is it's not a post-mortem job anymore, because digital forensics, when invented 40 years ago, was dark magic that was only done by police forces. Because at that time, police was facing one case, maybe once a year, and they were arriving on site, collecting evidence, taking it to lab, and then investigating it. So it was completely post-mortem. It happens, and then you react. But that's not the case anymore. Like every day, there's a chance that you are hacked. And every day, this increases. So it's not a nice-to-have capability anymore. It's a core part of the cyber resilience strategy of any enterprise. And it's very critical because without seeing what's inside your environment, you cannot basically respond, remediate. And in one sentence, you cannot fight with your eyes closed unless you're a Kung Fu master. That's how I see it. So in this section, we'll be talking about the disrupting nature and innovation in DFIR. First thing is, we are now talking about enterprises. So after some level, enterprises always have a SOC inside. But if you are below a threshold, and in our case, it's 5,000 headcount, if you are below that threshold, then you are working with MSSPs. Or in some cases, even bigger enterprises are working with MSSPs to like increase their awareness, increase their readiness. So the idea is it should be multi-tenant because in the enterprise case, we have multiple branches working all around the world. In the MSSP case, a simple MSSP, a small MSSP is working around 20, 30 customers. So you need to have a multi-tenant solution that allows you to conduct any type of investigation in less than 4 hours. That's the vision. And that's the disruption. And we are streamlining and speeding up this process. So that way you increase your cyber resilience, you increase your speed. That way you can get back to normal and then do whatever it takes to not face it again, which also increases the productivity by magnitudes. So streamlining and speeding up incident response is actually composed of 3 pillars in DFIR case. The first one is you need to be able to remotely collect a variety of evidence types. And if you take into account that even a small enterprise now has several operating system types, Windows, Linux, macOS. Now Chromebook is increasing. It's on the rise. Last year, it surpassed MacBook sales. We have ESXi. Bank customers are using some specific operating systems as AIX that like increases the complexity of the problem. So you need to be able to collect from all these asset types remotely. And then the second piece is when you collect this, the second most time-consuming process starts, which is the investigation piece. So the second pillar automates this investigation. So that way, rather than spending the precious time of level 3, level 4 analysts, a DFIR product should be able to flag these. And this goes back to the installation date of that machine, because we are talking about 300 days of visibility, which is almost impossible if you try to collect every single action happening on those systems. And then the last stage is once you identify these IOCs, these findings, you need to sweep your environment at a scalable way. And when I say sweeping, there are multiple indicator of compromise types. And the DFIR platform should be supporting all of these IOC formats, which can be Yara, Sigma, OSQuery, Snort, or like other IOC formats. These are some of our customer references, some case studies. Before starting with us, Turkish Airlines, they were sending someone on site in order to collect evidence physically, and then they were waiting for that process to finish, and then that person was flying back to the headquarters. So now this process is like taking place in under 1 hour, and they are doing this fully remotely from their headquarters. This way, they are increasing their investigations like by 55%, and their investigation time decreases from weeks to hours, and also dwell time to like collect and analyze the data, which also immediately directly reflects on the remediation time if there is anything that needs to be remediated. And the collaboration aspect is extremely important because enterprises are now spread around the world. We are not limited with one single like workspace. So that's why investigation needs to be collaborative, needs to be consistent. And in this section, there are 3 pillars again. You need to be able to do this remotely with a single click. If you do not use a DFIR platform, this is what you need to do. You need to run 20, sometimes 30 different scripts, one by one. And at the end of that process, you end up with lots of CSV files. That makes things even more complex. And the second thing is, some of these machines may require specific like treatments, like special treatments. So you need to connect to these machines. So that's why having a remote shell is priceless in these cases. And then when we talk about forensic visibility, it means having access to every single bits and bytes on those machines. And this needs to be auditable. So every action needs to be audited as well. And as I mentioned, the integration piece, these products should also integrate with your existing security stack like CM or syslog servers, so you can have central access to what's happening in your enterprise. Another example, Wipro, they like the term they use is solve for X, because the way we see digital forensics is it's just like James Webb Telescope. So when you have that much visibility, you can discover a lot of stuff that wasn't possible before with these standard telescopes. So that's the difference. When you have forensic visibility, you can use it for uncovering which has been undercover for sometimes years, in some cases. That's why they call us 800-pound gorilla in the room, and now they're introducing us in more than, I think, 17 cyber defense centers worldwide as a new service. So this way they are upskilling their DFIR capabilities. Each of these has 5,000 analysts, and there are new services being introduced, because prior to DFIR platforms, we were limited with desktop applications that ties one investigation, one investigation to one analyst on a one machine, which is 1-1-1 relation, but that's not the case anymore. So you can now unlock new services and increase your revenue. And why automating it is a game changer is because we already have all these solutions, CM, SOAR, EDR, and we already paid millions of dollars to these solutions. But the problem is we are limited with the hard to find skill, hard to find talent in our security operations centers. So once you integrate with these solutions, it immediately changes the game, because 3 a.m. in the morning, your security operations center receives an alert, regardless of the product that creates the alert. You can integrate the DFIR platform with these products, and then all the actions that are normally the responsibility of level 1, level 2, sometimes level 3 analysts are fully automated. Our customers say, before starting with Binalyze, we were doing the plumbing work of incident response, because they weren't able to focus on what matters. They were trying to collect the evidence, which was taking 90% of the time. So in the second piece here, it's a new innovative use case, which is patent pending. And this is actually shifting DFIR to the left, to the center of the security stack, by making it proactive. So when we started 6 years ago, the idea of forensic, the perception of forensic was reactive. So something needs to happen, and then you'll be collecting evidence and you'll be analyzing. But if you take into account that we are talking about 300 days, this needs to change. So we need new techniques, new methodologies to make this a continuous practice. So we shouldn't be waiting for receiving an alert, because we will receive that alert if we do not do it proactively. So that's why you can schedule these now on a regular basis. Let's say every week, I want to get a snapshot of my important assets, critical assets, whether I receive an alert or not. I want to be able to compare the snapshots, and without receiving an alert, I want to be able to spot if there is any important change, if there is any attempt to automatically start on that machine, or any type of APT activity should be easy to spot. So this time we are talking about the bottom of the funnel. So you still have access to millions of data points from 350 evidence locations. But on a weekly basis, you'll be seeing only 10 changes, 10 deletions, and 10 modifications, let's say, which makes it super easy. And this way you can decrease the evidence to look at by 200 times based on our tests. Another user story, Garmin, they call us the gold standard in modern DFIR solutions. And using our solution, they were able to integrate to 80 global locations worldwide, and they had a significant reduction in average case time and backlog. Because if you do not use automation, then the caseload increases, which is again reflecting directly to the time it takes to resolve a case. So whenever there's a new case, first you need to process the existing backlog, otherwise you cannot start with this one. So this was another example that they were able to gain with Binalyze. And finally, these are some of our feedbacks from G2 and Gartner. And these are, as you can see, all 5-star reviews. And it's mostly because the speed of the product and the effectiveness, the collaboration aspect, and integration aspect. So you're not onboarding a solution that will be used manually, that tightly integrates with what you have in your environment. And some of our reference customers, we are working with all Big Four, like Deloitte as an example, SecureWorks. We are proud to have Andy with us, and we'll be having a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Turkish Airlines, Sophos. We have lots of other MSSPs, Wipro, large enterprises, and like other MSSPs like Pioneer Defense, Integrated 360, ISPs, several ISPs, several banks, and another Big Four here, KPMG. Before I hand over to Haresh, let me give you some good news. We recently formed our Singapore branch because we see Singapore as the gateway to Asia Pacific. And again, we are proud to have Athena Dynamics as our partner in the region. And now we are also working together for the Future Forensics Academy because it's an emerging industry and it also requires us to spearhead this initiative to train, collaborating with universities, providing them free licenses, NFR licenses for them to use in their classes. So this way, also Malina is spearheading the Women in Cybersecurity initiative in Singapore. And we are also proud to be supporters of that initiative. That's all from my side. We also have poll questions. I'm passing the ball to Haresh.
Thank you, Emre, for the insightful sharing. So to our participants, we have actually launched the poll questions along Emre's presentation. So if you have not done so, you may actually fill up and also submit your responses over the poll. We have also now come to the panel discussion where we'll be opening the Q&A to the floor. So to moderate this session, I would like to once again invite Ken, Emre to join us. Also, I would like to invite Mr. Andy Nind, Director of Incident Response of SecureWorks, to also join us. And both gentlemen are dialing in from overseas. I understand that Andy is dialing in from Dubai and Emre is dialing in from US. I hope the weather and the conditions are good over there. And we'll hand over the time now to Ken.
Thank you, Harish. Yeah, I think for the challenge is Emre's side is easily past midnight. So truly appreciate your accommodating. I mean, you accommodate this time zone to this region. Yeah, I think without further ado, yes, I think thank you very much for the insightful sharing. I think I still remain pretty curious about this so-called game-changing DFIR proposition. Maybe you can share with us a little bit more how, if you see this as a new market, as per Gartner's mentioned, is new proposition that a specialized DFIR platform is so necessary. How will you see Binalines hence position yourself into these new markets and contributing to it by value adding? Yeah.
Great. So I think it's about the timing because our team is coming from the endpoint security background. And when we started developing our solution, the companies who would have developed something similar, it was completely against their value proposition. Because when you are developing a cybersecurity product, your value proposition is we keep you secure. So you cannot come up with a new product that allows you, but if we cannot protect you, then you can use this product to investigate the breach. So I think that prevented most of the companies in that industry in the last 6 years because it was completely against their perspective. So that's why we are integrating with endpoint security solutions to complete that picture. So they keep their value proposition as a security side, and we keep our value proposition as assume breach aspects. So it was the right time, the right team, and the right industry. So I see this industry starting around 30, 40 years ago with the likes of NCASE. It originates from the law enforcement. And another 20, 30 years passed, then the enterprise stage of forensics started. And in this case, application artifacts became popular and other vendors took the flag. And then they started adding stuff because they didn't have a baggage. That's why we see ourselves happy because when we started with the new technology, the new development frameworks, the new programming languages, without any baggage. We didn't have any backward compatibility problems. We didn't have any customers to support that purchased our product 15 years ago. So all these parameters allowed us to come with an innovative solution that is not desktop based, that works in the browser, that is using the latest technologies such as Docker, that can be deployed to the latest platforms like Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud. So all these parameters allowed us to come up with something specific and unique, and become like moving towards becoming a leader in this emerging industry.
Sure,
But to be
sure.
honest,
Very interesting.
it took six years, Ken. So
Wow.
like
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
So basically dealing with the new nature of the threat landscape in a way, and also the platform. So I think by looking at this whole panel, is a very good arrangement, because I see it's structured in a way that you are the supply side, whereas Andy's side is more like the user side. He runs MSSP, SOC, and he uses your platform. So by looking at this with the end in mind, maybe a question for Andy is that
they are the
seeing
champions, by the way, Ken. So we are just providing some tools for them. So they are the champions.
I see, I see. Okay, let's hear from Andy. I think first and foremost, what is the challenge that you commonly face in MSSP operation, and then how would Binalyze actually help you in a focused manner? That would be interesting. Yeah. I think Andy, you are muted.
That's always going to happen, wasn't it? Thank you, Ken. Yeah, I kind of my role within SecureWorks, we're an MSSP, but we're also an incident response consulting practice, and that's kind of where I spend most of my time. And that kind of creates interesting challenges from us, because we don't often have the luxury of visibility, and so visibility is probably the biggest challenge that we face in consulting engagement specifically. You know, our customers come to us during a time of difficulty, whether that be a ransomware breach or any other kind of compromise, and we have to kind of meet them where they are, and often where they are is not a great amount of visibility within the environment, and that presents a couple of challenges. First of all, it's obvious that we need visibility. We need to be able to access the data that in order for us to kind of answer some of the questions that they need answering. But secondly, because that, Emery talked about kind of the challenges around EDR, and I think of EDR as a like the black box in an aircraft, right? It's recording and it's seeing what's happening now, but as forensics analysts and needing to understand what occurred before that EDR is in place, the black box isn't really going to help us, right? And so we need technology to go and collect data that allows us to look into the past, which is your traditional forensics. The problem is traditional forensics doesn't answer for the rapid kind of the requirements to rapidly collect and understand that data, and so that's where we need something like Binalyze that helps us to collect the traditional forensic artifacts that we would have cared about as law enforcement officers years ago, but in a way that allows us to keep up with the kind of rapidly increasing threat. For example, if you think ransomware engagement, we have hours, not weeks, to be able to understand the extent of the compromise, what the threat actor is doing in that environment, and what actions can we take in order to prevent either continued freedom of movement in the environment, or to eject the threat actor entirely, depending on our objectives. And so, yeah, visibility and the right kind of visibility, I would say, is the biggest challenge that we face.
I see. Okay. Thank you for a very succinct explanation of which. So coming back to Omri, with that in mind, hence, maybe you summarize up a little bit how hence Binalyze technology would stand out in the DFIR market in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we should first talk about the roots of Binalyze. That goes 15 years back. So we started with the endpoint security solutions, creating anti-malware solutions, detecting like malicious applications, keyloggers, webcam loggers, those type of stuff. And in that startup, which was acquired, we had a chance to, which was a painful experience, to be honest. We had a chance to work with 10 million customers in North US. And when you work with that amount of customers, one thing you learn is even a single feature you add to the products can turn into loads of support tickets. Something wrong can be like observed. If you observe it on 1% out of 10 million, it becomes very huge. So that made us obsessed about the automation. So whatever we were doing, we started to automate because it's almost impossible to deal with 10 million customers with a 8-people team. So only 8-people team. And that allowed Binalize to move really fast. So everything on our site is automated. We are an engineering company. So 50% of our team, we are close to 80 people. And 40 of this team is product and engineering. So we still keep innovating. We still keep iterating. Every month there is a new release. Our customers are having a hard time catching up. So they generally deploy our solution every quarter. Because we are releasing a new version every month. So I think the automation aspect, the iteration aspect, the agility of the company is one of the biggest differentiators. And also having the latest technology without having a baggage and starting from scratch helped us like capture the market much faster than our competitors. So it's based on the previous experiences, previous pains. And something also I read in, I guess it was Y Combinator 15 years ago. Make a great product and the growth happens. So until the last 2 years, like a year and a half, we were an inbound growing company. And that's because of only for one reason. A great product that was receiving like inbound requests from potential buyers. So we are a product company, innovating, iterating at high speeds.
Good. Thanks for sharing. Sounds like a very robust, concentrated automation kind of pursuit.
Exactly.
So I'm not trying to verify on your offering, but maybe I would like to do a quick check on Andy's side since he's using your service and product. How do you find the offering and the service level so far? And at the same time, is there any use cases that you can share by citing some examples?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the experience with Binalize is, I would say it's kind of like night and day compared to, as a director of technology for a consulting firm, I've had either the pleasure or the curse of working with loads of different products and vendors and service providers over the years. And as a consulting practice, sometimes the way that we want to use that technology doesn't always necessarily reflect what the technology was developed for. And so that can create kind of some kind of adversarial relationships between product and partner. But what I really like about Binalize is they absolutely lean into us really hard with our kind of I don't want to set a precedent for you, Emre, and kind of puts too much weight on your back, but I get to have a call with the team in Binalize every week. So me and my team, small team of developers, we get to talk to them every week. And every week, I don't think we fail to come up with a feature request or some kind of request on the team. But to speak to Emre's point about they release every month and they have the kind of the benefit of being agile, I'm constantly amazed by how quickly these feature requests become features in the product. I always kind of am surprised by. I don't know how they do it. They sprint so quickly that these things seem to come out. So, and that's a really new experience for me. And it feels like the product is becoming something, specifically for us. And I think that's great. So yeah. And from like the platform perspective, to have, before Binalize, it seems like there was no before Binalize now, because it's how we do what we do. But we had to have kind of some of the typical like hard-hitting forensic tools that you mentioned Encase, Emre. We haven't used Encase for a long time, but some of those forensic platforms. We also have to worry about collecting the evidence, then we have to worry about processing the evidence, and then we have to worry about presenting that evidence to the analyst to do what they do. And for the first time, really, in my experience, Binalize gives us those three things in one place, and they do all three like really well, right? It's not kind of like they lean into one and they present the others. So that's actually enabled me in the last 12 months to consolidate my tech stack in our practice, and I've kind of exited a number of different vendors because the tooling is just not necessary anymore, because I'm able to do the vast majority of my forensic investigations within Binalyze. And so, you know, and that's because the platform's great, but it's also because of the relationship that we've been able to establish with them and that kind of cadence of feature requests to feature realities that we get from them. So yeah, I'll stop there because I can see Emre's head swelling. But yeah, that's my experience.
I reckon Emre will take it very positively as a product feedback kind of thing from the industry,
I mean,
right?
that made me really happy, Andrew. So it's glad to hear that it's validated by you, because today with a customer in US, I think I should mention this here. One thing that we haven't done in the last 15 years is we never plugged ourselves off from the support email. So our product team, our engineering team, I see myself as an engineering as well. I always have the support team, because support at Binalyze.com or support at company.com is the place where the heart of the customer is beating. So that's the pulse. So that's why we are fully customer oriented, extremely customer oriented. And I think that goes back to our previous experience again. So we always believe that whatever you come up with is not important unless the customer wants it. So that's the idea. And we are glad to work with SecureWorks, getting like laser guided targets from them. And then we are hitting on the targets. So that's how I see the relationship.
Yes, just like the saying go, right? We don't report to the CEO nor the board, but all of us report to the customers.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the feedback from Andy is interesting, but maybe we can learn from Emre to dwell a little bit deeper. If you could summarize a little bit from your experience of all those feedback from the industry, what are the major top challenges that your customers face in managing incidents?
Actually, they are even like, based on my experience, the challenges we were facing were not that much, and I think that's because coming from the endpoint security industry, like teaching at the university, so we already knew what to do, how to do, what to collect, but it was taking too much time. So in our case, but in the enterprises, especially when you have a SOC, combining this with the lack of expertise. I think the biggest problem is fragmented toolkits. So you need to have a complete picture, but in order to get a complete picture, imagine you need to use 20 different cameras to capture like pixels, like square areas of those pictures. So you need to use them one by one. And then you end up with a scrambled picture that you now need to combine. And then you need to show that to the people. But when you don't have those people to look at those pictures, then you're again blocked. So I think the biggest problem is fragmentation in this industry. The traditional approach not fitting to the purpose, which was invented by and for law enforcement, not for enterprises, which also which also ended up with some funny cases. So enterprises are generally quite cautious. So whenever something happens, they generally call two parties. I remember a case. One of the party goes with our solution, and the other party goes with the standard approach. So they open up the like the cases, tower cases of those computers. They try to plug out the hard drives, and they attach it to these duplicators. And in a few hours, the other team, leaves the environment, and like they're having a conversation. So, are you done? And they say, yeah, we are done. And that's because they were using a new technology. So I think that's the biggest differentiator. That's why I agree with Andy. So it's day and night if you use the old methodology.
I think from layman point of view is that peacetime management is very different from wartime. When incidents happen, there's not much time to think, and we need something that is very concentrated and very fast to react. Yeah. So I think in the interest of time, we would wrap up the plenary soon. But before that, I believe for the benefits of the audience, maybe I get a takeaway liner from you so that they could use it practically back to their office.
Andrew, would you like to, or I have a really short 2-sentence one. It's for me, Ken, right?
Yes, go ahead. It's okay. Yeah.
Assume breach. That's all I can say.
All right. Yes, good one.
Assume
Andy?
breach.
I think I'll just add the one that being an ex UK government employee, my old boss, the director of GCHQ, Ian Lobban, once said, there are 3 things that are certain in life: death, taxes, and a threat actor in your environment. Which I really like.
Wow.
I really like it. Wow.
I see. Very succinct. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Yeah, I think it's about time. Let me hand the floor back to Harish. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Once again, our warm appreciation goes out to Ken, Amre, and Andy for taking us through an enriching afternoon. At this juncture, I would be flashing up a slide of feedback, requesting all attendees over here to scan the QR code and also let us know of your thoughts and feedback of today's program.
And Harish, not forgetting that, Amre will be in Singapore in this coming GovWare in Athena Dynamics booth. So when the expert is here, please use the good opportunity to get hold of him and ask as much question as you can with regard to DFIR, SOC, or anything that deals with incident management. Yeah. So our booth is in J28. It's in the SG Tech Pavilion. When you go to the main door, you just walk straight into the other end. Opposite you is there. Yeah, it's not difficult to spot the booth actually. It's next to the F&B anyway, where the food is.
Indeed. So we do hope you can join us also, attendees at the GovWare 2023 conference and exhibition happening 17 to 19 October. More information you could also find on the website, and do join us over there and also make some time to speak to Amre. And with that, just leaving you a little bit of a thought. You know, it takes years to build a reputation and only a few minutes of a cyber incident to ruin it. So let us stay cyber secured and continue to ramp up our cyber posture. And with that, we wish you a successful transformation ahead in this digital era. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. And once again, thanks to all our panelists for joining us and sharing your insights this afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.